So, Anshuman is an experienced risk taker with varied flavors to life. From having a startup at 23 to currently having the opportunity to work on the latest technologies in artificial intelligence and machine learning, data and analytics, cloud and IoT space, he is blessed with awesome people as peers and mentors. His 5 year plan sees him traveling the world to understand how to run a global business across technology as a vertical. So yeah, welcome Anshuman. Thank you for taking out your time. Thank you so much. I couldn't be more grateful. And everyone has welcomed you in the chat if you could see the chat right now. So yeah,
Absolutely.
keep those messages incoming so that Anshuman could share one or two extra tips for you guys.
No, thanks, Nidhi, and the larger team. I know it's late in India, and probably from the rest of the world where folks are joining. It's not too early, to be honest. It's good 9 o'clock. I'm in Eastern time zone, so I'm good. I'm glad that I'm not in Pacific. Else it would have been early, like it would have been like 6 a.m. So thank you, Nidhi, for accommodating, and I'm excited to be talking to the team, and to the folks on the call. Would want to keep this interactive, and the whole idea is for you guys to take away whatever it is that you're looking for out of this session, and that's only going to happen if we talk about what is it that you guys are looking to get out of the particular webinar that we have planned. So excited, Nidhi. Let me know when you would want me to start, and happy to get rolling.
Yes, Anshuman, we can start right now. Yes.
Okay, okay, all right. Awesome. So very, very quickly, just to double click on what Nidhi was talking about before I start killing you guys with slides. I'm Anshuman. I lead the GTM for Scalable Technologies here in Canada. Scalable is the global AI partner for Microsoft in 2023, and then we are a Databricks invested company. Now, for a lot of you, these names would be familiar. For those who don't know about these names, you guys should definitely look into it if you're planning to build a roadmap for yourself as a AI professional. Um, I roughly have a team member strength of around 8 people right now, taking care of Canada as a region across the entire big data value chain from a services perspective, and then I also lead Americas for Sellable as an industry SME, right? For energy. Uh, yeah, that's a brief bit about me. I started my journey roughly in 2012 with a product company. I used to make mobile phones, and ever since that, I've transitioned into the world of tech sales pretty early in my career. I think right around 2015, 2016 is when I really dived and picked the niche of tech sales. Back then, there was not much of AI, to be honest. It was more analytics, which was being duped as AI, which is still the case in certain scenarios. How we're able to see analytics and think that it's pure play AI. So yeah, that's been the journey for me. I'll quickly share a few slides. So what I'll talk to you about is. Obviously, we want to understand how to sell, but we also want to understand the nuance of AI, the nuance of technology as we know it, right? And some of the slides might actually surprise you, where we'll not go technical, but we'll go more business oriented, as that is one of the gaps that we personally I've seen that is not being filled by sellers, right? You're not able to talk or translate the technical lingo into how a business can translate those requirements, right? So yeah, that's the plan. Let me quickly share my screen. And guys, please ask questions, ask queries, bring in real-time scenarios that you've faced and how I might mitigate those situations. I want it to be fluid. I don't want to kill you with slides. So yeah, that's why I've tried to keep it brief. I want to have more of Q&A than anything else. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Awesome, awesome. So on the right side of the footer, you can see my LinkedIn. Feel free to get in touch. We can have one-on-ones around your business strategy, your GTM strategy, and would love to collaborate and build a network. Right, post this webinar. So looking forward to getting invites. So as I was talking to you about it, I've had a very diverse journey. So as to say, I was not necessarily kind of born in cloud. Uh, that might give me an added advantage. As I was telling you, I started my journey in totally different fields. So I did my electronics and telecom from Narsimonji and got into making mobile phones. Practically launched one of the first smartphones for my organization. That was back in 2013, and that was the big thing back then, right? Just the connectivity piece was one of the big things, and over the years, I traveled within India. I traveled abroad. I was based in Middle East for a stint of 1.5 2 years. This time, one of the things I realized was I love two things really closely. One is technology. Another is interacting with people, right? And solving their business challenges with solutions, right? So that's where I thought I'll make the shift, and I got into analytics in the IoT space, right? So back then, Internet of Things was a buzzword, if you will, right? So I'm talking about 2015, 2016. We started with analytics per se, where we were collecting edge IoT data and then building analytics on top of it, which was predominantly run through visualization tools like Power BI or any other, right? The Click Sense of the world. Uh, Post that, I got an opportunity as I wanted to also explore the product world. I got an opportunity to work in a SaaS startup by the name of Loginext. It was based in Mumbai, and they were into route optimization and last mile logistic optimization. Right, so that was a different ball game altogether, where you were then going even further deeper into the product feature set, as well as what the business KPIs can be driven by this product so that the ROI is justified. Did that for a bit, took a hiatus, went to Bangalore, did my MBA, and got back into the mix. And this time around, I was very clear on getting into the cloud space because that was really up and coming at the time. So this was around 2019, where I got into Quantify. It's one of the premier partners for Google Cloud. And when I say premier partner, predominantly focused on AI, ML, and analytic solutions, having customers like Bayer, Disney, so on and so forth, and doing uh, at the edge of AI solutioning for them. Did that for a bit, joined another top three global partner for Google Cloud. It's called Sears. Did that for a bit, and then I decided to enter back into product. So I did Redis. I don't know how many of you know Redis. So Redis is an in-memory data store company. It's a unicorn startup based out of Israel. Got a chance to travel to Israel. Got a chance to really understand what in-memory data stores are and how caching actually works, right? So that's where it got very techno-functional. And at the end, where I am right now is in sellable technologies, shifting gears back to services, but this time predominantly focused on Microsoft Azure. Um and co-innovating with these hyperscalers like Azure and Databricks to build frameworks so that you are able to accelerate an enterprise's journey to deploying AI within their environments. Right. So that's a brief bit about me. As you can see, multiple facets, multiple roles, and this has given me a plethora of understanding about how a CIO might think, how a CEO might think, how they might be thinking differently. What are the key challenges when it comes to deploying AI and adopting AI within an enterprise? And over this journey, I've had the luxury of working with both digital natives, which are born in cloud technology companies. They understand tech. They're talking more about, okay, what the product or what the technology can deliver for me. It might be auto scaling. It might be the throughput. It might be the throttling, right? Very technically nuanced conversations. Whereas I've worked in, I can't call them laggard enterprises or laggard industries anymore because the script has drastically flipped now. But in industries like energy, in industries like manufacturing, which technically are usually slow moving in technology adoption, right? So this journey has kind of given me an array of experiences over different industries, different kind of customer personas, different technical personas. So Feel free to ask any questions that you might have where you are in a particular situation. And if you were to have me maneuver around it, how would I kind of go about doing that? So yeah, that's a brief bit about me. But before I get into AI and or how to sell AI, it's important to really understand the value chain, right? And when I mean by the value chain, you can define value chain for everything. You can value chain an industry, you can value chain a technology, you can value chain a service, whatever might be the case. And I have found it to be the easiest way to decode the benefits and attach them to the feature set that you might be delivering. So when you think AI, as you might know, prerequisites is to be on the cloud, right? And when you think about the cloud, this in front of you is the are the key components when you talk about the big data value chain, if you will, right? I'm not going to go deep into what big data is, what data warehouses are, what is the difference between a warehouse and a data lake, and all of those jazz. If you want me to, raise your hand and let me know. More than happy to double click. It's a session for you, not for me to blabber. So let me know. But just from a big data value chain perspective, and guys, I can't see the chat, right? So feel free to either call it out or let Nidhi know. Yeah. So from a big data value chain, you first need to understand that, okay, when you're trying to pitch AI, what is that journey to AI, right? And that roadmap to AI is what you see in front of you. So when you're thinking about an enterprise, predominantly this cloud, this on-prem, this lift and shift, all of that is basically ways to maneuver and manage your data, right? And one of the prerequisites for AI is data, right? So this in front of you is the big data value chain, where you start from infra modernization, where you're talking about running on-prem servers and data centers to moving that onto a cloud native environment, modernizing your overall infrastructure and getting them to run on a more of a VM based approach. VM is virtual machines. And then once you have the infra in place, that is when then app mod kind of kicks in, where your I won't say applications per se, where your any customer facing or any user facing application, how do you run it, right? So that's where you talk about containerization, microservices based environments, how you're able to run multiple OSs into a single stack and all of that. Then once this infra state is kind of modernized, you're capturing data in a much more cohesive manner. That is where you then jump into the analytics piece. Now, what is analytics and how is it different from, let's say, an ML or an AI? Is analytics is basically predictive. It's sorry, analytics is predominantly prescriptive, right? So based on your data, how can you combine and modify and optimize data or permutate combine data to give you insights? That's what analytics is, right? A lot of people currently are looking to do analytics, but they think they want AI. And that's where the gap happens, right? So, what is very, very critical when you're selling is to follow the big data value chain. You can't have an enterprise jump from point one to point five. It will never happen. The project will falter. The business users would not give you a sign off. You will never make the sale. So if there's somebody who's not even infra modernized and you're going and talking to them on analytics, you will eventually run into hiccups. You will not be able to kind of take them through. And just to give you a small example, we work with major enterprises in Canada and in the US, and I've done my work in the Asian region as well. We are talking to one of the bigger customers in Canada, and we thought that we are going to be able to do a knowledge advisor for them, right? Knowledge advisors are basically RAG-based Gen AI models. RAG is retrieval augmented generation, so that's a flavor of generative AI, if you will. And now you have graph rags and additional things coming in. But we went in, and what we eventually discovered after 1 month of pre-sales is they don't have their data state ready, right? They have their OT data, which is operational technology data, which is sitting somewhere that is not even accessible. And there's practically 90% of values which are not even being captured by the machinery and by the sensors. How do you build a generative AI solution when there's no data for you to build or to fine tune or to create a knowledge base, right? So that is where understanding this big data value chain is really, really critical. So you get into analytics, and after that analytics, you're talking about visualization. I haven't seen that here, not to drain the slide too much, but you're talking about Power BI, you're talking about Click, you're talking about Looker, which is a GCP product. so on and so forth, where you're able to represent the data and find meaning through it. There are a lot of innovation that's happening on visualization as well, where you're moving from 2D visualization to 3D visualization, actually. You guys can look into it. I would say 90% of the organizations today can solve their problem from infra, app analytics, and reporting. There is only that 10% of organizations that really are ML and AI ready. And then one of the things you also need to understand is there's a drastic difference between what use cases are right for ML, and then what use cases can be really qualified for AI, right? So once you do analytics reporting, that is when you are in a data state where you can then start building classic ML models, uh, generative AI models, whatever you might have, deep learning models, so on and so forth, so that you move from prescriptive to predictive solutioning, right? To really building intelligence through AI. I'll take a quick pause here. If there are any questions on this, more than happy to answer those right now. Okay, I'll continue then. Now, just double clicking because the point of contention or the point of discussion here is AI. And I genuinely think ML and AI should be considered separate right now. The timeline is very, very critical to show, and I'm not going to talk about what happened in 1943 and now and how first computer was born and 1980s. It does not matter, right? The key development practically happened after 2000, and major acceleration to AI adoption or technology adoption have to happen after 2010, and then you saw a huge bump after or during COVID, right? The reason was how we were able to bridge the gap between human performance and machine performance, right? And that's what you see in front of you. So if you look at it, these are basically, in a way, the five senses, right? So writing, speech, image, reading, and language. And now, if you see human performance as a benchmark is set to zero, we are actually outperforming at times, right? One of the best examples is how generative AI has kind of become the buzzword. There's been a lot of innovation that is happening on vision AI, right? When I say vision AI, can I, for one of the customers, what we're doing now is they have this huge array of transformers. Can I take drone images and drone videos and analyze those for any kind of asset defects, right? Is there oil leakage? Is there rust? Is there bird nest? Is there vegetation? Is there XYZ? And now the technology is so smart and the algorithms are so smart, they're able to give 90 plus percent accuracy. So one of the things I want you guys to take away is this is the time when AI has become ready for adoption. Are humans ready? That's a different conversation altogether. But the technology has finally broken the threshold that was required for us to be able to deliver. And then again, no slide on AI is complete without one of the Gartner hype cycle slides, right? So these are come over a couple of key aspects, right? So why did I want to show this to you is because I wanted to talk about the things that are really really helping us, right? So general intelligence is something that's picking up. Smart robots is something that's really picking up. Another great example of work we're doing is there are robots that do asset inspections for one of our customers. What we have done is we have and the previous process was, and this might help you relate, right? So the previous process was there was a guy who was managing these robots. He'll manually run them on a path. They'll capture images. The guy in the backdrop or the control tower in the backdrop will analyze those images and then create work orders for the field maintenance team to go and optimize. Now, how will AI write that script, right? So what was done was based on the beat plans, a JSON was auto-created through generative AI. That JSON was used to automatically have the robot follow a particular path. Once that path was followed, based on the images that were being captured, we use something which is called Vision AI Analytics that we have kind of co-built with Microsoft, which was used to find any kind of KPIs that the customer wanted to track, right? And once those KPIs was tracked, there was an automatic work order that was made in, let's say, a Maximo or a ServiceNow that automatically got assigned to a field optimization guy. So you practically took an activity which would take X amount of time and you divided that by 10. That's where the value of AI kind of comes in, right? That's where we were able to make a difference, right? So what I want you to see is not worry about the noise that you see in front of you. That hey, I want to understand what edge AI is. I want to understand what quantum computing is. There's a lot of buzz around quantum computing right now. Look at things that make sense for your business users, right? That will actually draw an impact without draining their pockets. And if I was to tell you what you should focus on, I would say AI pass for sure. I would say machine learning, NLP, computer vision, and generative AI right now. Rest of the things are usually a subset of what you're doing. Deep neural networks, again, very, very, I wouldn't say very early. As I said, AI is ready. Are humans and our industries ready to do neural networks? That's a big question that you need to ask, right? So you see that the world is adopting AI. There are so many new technologies out there. You see AI is ready. You see that there's a big data value chain. There's massive cloud adoption. They're saying that 70% of the enterprises would be on cloud by 2025. However, when you go and you see how many enterprises have actually been able to successfully adopt technology or AI, the number is very, very low, right? Uh, just to the team, wanted to ask if there's somebody who would want to take a stab at it. Why are they struggling to adopt AI? Any thoughts there?
As you mentioned, Anshuman, hi, this is Arvind. I think you mentioned that infrastructure is not ready or modernization. There is a gap between what traditionally they have been doing versus what is needed to extend this technology today.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would just correct that a little bit. I believe the infra is ready now, a little bit. I believe they are on the right tangent, and they want to do AI. They're still not able to do. Why do you think that's the case, Arvind?
I think I think lack of like a proof of concept or understanding of how things work with AI, what exactly is the value that it brings to their
Yeah,
team,
yeah,
something that they wanted to see, like cost impact and also a business impact to its users. So something they're not sure if there is some kind of analysis that states that this is definitely going to add value to their business. I believe their organizations are willing to take the path leap forward.
yeah.
And most of them are in the cost optimization path as the market is not so great. That's what people are saying as of now. Yeah. And
I don't think after 2012 market has ever been great. But that's the game we're playing. But you've kind of done my job for me. So thanks, Arvind. If to the audience, if I can have few things to be taken away, Arvind said cost optimization and the business users, right? The impact on the business. These are some of the keywords that I'm going to double click on. But thanks for sharing that, Arvind. Is there
Hey
anybody?
Anshuman, we have a couple of people in the chat who have added a lot of points. So Ashutosh said that it's data quality. Srijal said that it's lack of clarity and education. Shyam is saying that it's moving too fast. Srijal is again saying that it's lack of technology and infrastructure. Then there's Samya who is saying that it's fear of data security. And then
Amazing.
there's one more person who is saying maybe data complexity and management.
Yeah, these are all right questions, right? I don't know what I'm even doing on this webinar anymore because you guys are spot on, right? My rest of the slides might not even make sense anymore, but that's precisely the point, right? So now we are catching the nerve. I would just add something on these things. We are still thinking tech, right? I would again go back to Arvind's point, right, where he said cost benefit and business impact. What happens is we as technologists are so married to the game, we are not able to wear multiple hats. We're always like, hey, it's data, it's security, it's responsible AI, it's this, it's that, but we're never able to go that, hey, like to the audience, did anybody think that change management might be the biggest thing? There might be fear of AI adoption, right? Where a guy thinks that I'm just going to lose my job. Why do I adopt it? Let me just put the worst case scenario from the benefit perspective, so that the management sees that, hey, this AI work is not working, and my job will be safe. These are real situations, right? So, but all are perfectly accurate answers. I would just add another layer to it. So we have discussed the tech layer, or the IT layer, if you will. Let's also now start thinking as a group about the business layer, right? Let's also, because I, as a data engineer or a data scientist, or as an infra developer, will never be using the AI that I develop, right? So there's this mindset shift that we need to have, that who is the user? The user is the person you need to focus on, because the adoption, the usage, and the cost benefit impact, or the overall return on investment impact would happen through that person or that persona, if you will, right? So yeah. So what I personally feel, and I know we might be running short on time. Anidhi, just keep me honest on the time, please. But the way I would say is, they are not asking the right question, or they're not answering the right answers, right? What I mean by that is, why do you need AI today, right? Why AI? Why now? Why in this business unit? Okay, I've been able to answer why. Then what, right? What AI domain do I need? What function do I need to optimize? What ROI? What success criteria, right? And once we are able to identify the why and the what, then we can talk about the how. Every time when you're going in and when you're pitching to a customer, when you're pitching to an enterprise, usually what I see as sellers, we go into the how. That, hey, this is the solution, this is the product, this is the technology, this is amazing. Uh, it's going to help you with automation. It's going to help you with blah blah blah. We are very very product or technology specific, but that's the how. We are not, or as an enterprise, they're not answering the what and the why, which is where major value addition happens through a seller of technology, right? So how to be AI ready, what should be your AI roadmap, which AI you will use, how to build the AI team, how to gauge the AI ROI, right? But we directly are jumping as a fraternity into the house of the world. Like, hey, I know how generative AI can help you, but why do you need Gen AI? Do you even have the data state for Gen AI? What will you do with Gen AI? Right? The moment you're able to answer the whys and the whats of the world, the hows becomes super clear. And if I could give you a rule of thumb, spend 60% to 70% of the time on the why and the what, the how will automatically appear. So while we have talked about the outlines and the overviews, right, of what I wanted to do, now I want to get into the prerequisites, right? And I've tried to keep it fluid. I've not kept it selling specific or enterprise specific from an adoption perspective. I've kept it fluid on the key keywords that we need to look for, right? It can be used by a seller to qualify whether an enterprise would actually adopt AI today or 2 years from now. And it is perfect for an enterprise to identify that, hey, am I ready to do AI? Or am I ready to do innovation? Let's stop using the word AI. I think it's just been blatantly used. Am I ready to innovate today? Right? One of the things we use internally is called modernize and innovate, where modernize it is moving on-prem, breaking data silos, creating an integrated data lake, making your data intelligent and actionable. And then the innovate piece comes, where innovate is, how do I now take this data and build models on top of it, build intelligence on top of it, build use cases on top of it. Now, a use case can be supply chain optimization, it can be demand forecasting, it can be customer data platform, it can be enterprise knowledge advisor, which is, excuse me, Gen AI powered. It can be anything. That's the how. But why is, are you modernized? What are the business challenges, right? What are the inefficiencies that you're wanting to remove? And then that's the what, right? So why do you want to do it? Because I want to remove business inefficiencies. What are you going to do? Oh, I might just do a classic ML model that would be optimizing my supply chain and reducing the cost by 20%. Now comes the how. How will you do it? Oh, why don't I go to Microsoft, build a use a framework that is manufacturing driven, or use a copilot and build and fine tune it or train it based on my data DNA and my knowledge base, and then expose it to my my workers in my manufacturing facilities, right? That's the flow that you would want to take, right? So before we understand what are the prerequisites, I want to ask another question, right? Why AI is a buzzword today and not 10 years back? And barring the COVID piece, right? I don't want us to talk about COVID per se, because that was an outlier, an anomaly, if you will. But even if that was not the case, why today, where everyone talking about AI as a buzzword, why enterprises want to adopt AI, wherein they ran away from such an investment 10 years back? What has changed according to you guys?
I think the pace, sorry, Ashman, this is Arvind again. So I think the pace of innovation, everybody's talking about just being left behind in this era. That's something bothering businesses from something that I've been
FOMO.
observing. For example, like Nokia versus Samsung, and which is a great example of our times to see, even though there is Nokia has a very robust model of phones, but it was unable to innovate to smartphone era and market it well. So that's something that I have been observing. The other thing is, I think value addition of AI. That's some people are have been seeing today, like how it can optimize the cost, like replace humans for doing some of the jobs, and how can they optimize on the costs, and also in terms of safety and manufacturing units, there have been the safety and security issues, so that AI and robots can really help with computer vision and other stuff which you talked about. So those are the key areas that I have been thinking about on top of my mind.
So you said FOMO, which is spot on. You said security, and what
Uh,
was the third one?
I think safety and security in terms of in the industries, when humans are unable to go into harsh environments,
Got
their
it.
robots and AI can help them. But
Yeah. So what I want to give you, Arvind, today is a framework that is industry independent, right?
right,
So safety and security, yes, but this is very nuanced.
okay.
However, FOMO is spot on, right? The fear of missing out is absolutely spot on, and we as sellers can take leverage of that, right?
Hmm.
So for the forum again, Arvind is helping me do my job better. FOMO is real. It's happening, especially when you saw Gen AI really blow up, right? So thanks, Arvind. I see somebody else's hand as well.
Obed raised his hand. If you could unmute yourself and answer.
Yes, yes. Thanks. Hi, guys. Hi, Anshuman. Nice to meet you.
I
So I have a different take on this. Of course, I agree with Arvind and on the broader aspect of technology and how things are going, especially with FOMO as well. But the speed at which AI can do tasks, the that is one aspect which I think is also crucial, especially when it comes to things like customer service, which has seen a large adoption of AI, right? So the speed at which AI is able to resolve the cases and reduce the turnaround time for companies, that is also one of the, I believe, uh, I would say, catalysts for adoption of this AI wave that we can call.
so Obed, just a question on that. Can you give me one of the services that you feel has really made an impact in customer service?
Well, I mean, the most common one that we all use is Chat GPT, I think, which everyone in the chat has also mentioned. I mean, today everyone is using Chat GPT, from not just developers, but even the end users, right? They rely on Chat GPT a lot more than they used to. In fact, now that companies like Salesforce are coming up with their own AI models, Agent Force, and all those things coming up, is going to become even more AI dependent, I believe, especially this customer service segment.
So one of the things, and Obed, spot on. Thank you for answering, and thank you for calling this out. I agree. It's the speed, and I would say you're talking about the benefits, right? The benefits
Mm.
of what certain technologies can do that might just accelerate humans'
Adoption. Yep.
efficiency, right?
Yeah, efficiency. Yeah.
Right. one thing I would want the entire forum to do, right? And it's very, very critical, guys. Be very judicious where you use AI, right? We use AI very loosely. If in hindsight you look at it with generative AI now is running more of an analytics tool, right? What you're doing is you're scrolling the web to find relevant citations. How does it become a true AI deployment? If I fine tune it based on the embeddings, and if I'm able to create a knowledge base attuned to my data DNA, right? So I agree, innovation might be a better word for us sellers to use because you don't know what's running under the hood at times, right? We think we're selling AI, we might just be selling basic ML models. We might just be doing basic pure play analytics on historical data set, right? And these are the precursors to AI adoption, right? So just one thing, if I can give away to the team, use innovation rather than using AI. Is just going to fit and sit better. At times, it might not also scare away the customer you're speaking to because the moment they hear AI, they're like, oh my God, how do I do change management? How do I break my data silos? Oh, it's just too much. You're talking innovation. We can innovate through multiple ways. We can innovate just by modernizing your data state, right? So, but great answers, Ved um, and Arvind, love it. Okay, and okay, so just in paucity of time, let me just go ahead. So what changed, right? The question was more around why today people want AI and not 10 years back. According to me, this necessarily the underlying current changed around this. Data became accessible, right? You saw cloud really pick up, right? People in the world were talking about, hey, I would rather do an on-prem and a bit of cloud, security, governance, and all of that jazz. Now everyone wants to move to cloud, right? So data became accessible, computing became drastically cheap, right? You must have seen a recent, I think just yesterday or day before yesterday, a recent announcement by NVIDIA where they will build one of the biggest or the most smartest laptops, right? That I believe can handle more parameters for computation than what ChatGPT has been trained on, right? So computing power, processing of chips, microprocessors, the size of computers, the size of these chips became drastically smaller for you to be able to expand, and that's why we are making leaps of talking quantum computing now, right? Cost of data management drastically reduced, right? So where I was talking about $100, I'm doing that in $1 today, right? On a per MB or a per GB cost, right? So hyperscalers really made breaking data silos and creating an integrated data platform really affordable. And the last thing is, all of this is great, but what happens with, so for me, the biggest turning point in, and because I see a lot of Indian audience here, the biggest turning point in India's journey for AI or for technology has been Geo, when they just came in, put towers, created internet connectivity. So again, you have to go deeper and understand why now people are talking about AI, because it's become affordable. Why has it become affordable? Data, computing cost, management cost of data, and connectivity, right? Now, based on these reasons, what are the prerequisites for an enterprise? And what is the checklist for sellers like us to qualify or disqualify if a customer is innovation ready, right? I use the word AI very cautiously, to be honest. So is their data state ready? What I mean by their data state ready, I might have certain SaaS platforms like a HRMS, a workhouse or warehouse management system. I might have certain OT data sources like SCADAs of the world, Siemens, Honeywell. I might have my CRM. I might be using SAP as an ERP. So you see multiple data sources where data collection is happening. But is there an integrated data lake or integrated data platform where all of this being culminated so I can cross-pollinate and create intelligence on top of it, right? That is the number one prerequisite. If you don't have that and you have rest of those things, nothing is going to work. So if you see, these are chronology of events you need to follow to be able to deliver an AI project or an innovation project. One, get your data state ready, have an integrated data platform. And for that, on a side note, I would love for you guys to research about how data warehouses are now changing into data lake houses, how both of them are different, how a data lake based on the Delta Lake architecture is able to identify and work across unstructured, semi-structured, and structured data sets, and how this is going to be the future. Look at Microsoft Fabric, look at Databricks, look at Snowflake. These are some of the pioneers in that space, and then there are multiple other ones as well. Another thing I would want you guys to know about is ingestion or connection of data sources to hyperscalers. That's another place where sellers can have a drastic value add. If you understand CDC, if you understand near real time, if you understand throttling, if you understand all of those things, it's going to help you sound more intelligent in front of the customer, because all they care about is, hey, how do you solve this business challenge? I understand my data state. I don't know how to get into an integrated data lake. So that's where the data comes in. Another step is, usually when you're gonna go and talk about it, you're gonna go to a CDO, a chief data officer, chief information officer, somebody with more of a tech persona, and that's where at times we falter. I in the initial days of me setting up Sellable within Canada with my team and with my founders, one of the challenges was we were getting to the end, but we weren't getting sign-offs, right? We were like, okay, we want to do the POC, we have everything approved, the data office gave us a nod. End of the day, the CEO is not ready to sign. And the reason was there was no business user buy-in. As I said, guys, we have to focus on who's going to use it, right? I might have a jewelry aficionado in my family, but if my wife is the one who's going to wear that jewelry, and if I don't have her buy in and a sign off, I might invest $100,000 on a solitaire or a whatever, right? But if the end user does not vote, it's a wasted effort, right? That's where we need to be understanding of how do we get the business users to buy in. So what I mean by business users, if I'm doing something for my robot exam, who runs the robot exam, right? Or if I'm doing something for my field optimization, or for my, so we're doing some interesting work in computer vision with one of the major sport league in Canada. The users are the marketing people, right? They want that based on the 10,000 hours of video, I want to capture snippets for highlight and I want to automate it. Now, the technology is going to be used by marketing people, but the sign offs and the selling is happening to the IT people. That, hey, this uses Florence as a underlying technology, right? We're using Cobra, which is content-based image retrieval, right? We're doing all the sign-offs there, but eventually the end user is never brought into the loop. And by the time we get to them, they're like, hey, this is not what I want. This does not solve my purpose, and the entire thing gets wrapped. So business user buy-in is absolutely important. The third thing is AI COE. Now, this can happen in two ways. One, you can partner with an SME, let's say like a Sellable, when it comes to anything Microsoft or Databricks, or you can build your own AI COE. One of the challenges is you bring up a project, you try and what do you call it, recycle the same team that you might have right now as an org, right? Without having AI SME or innovation SME, and then you try and have the same team, and it's a makeshift arrangement, right? It's jugaad that we usually do as organizations at time, or as enterprises at time. And if you don't find an AI COE, believe you me, you might be able to build, you might be able to and deploy, but there would be nobody to manage and track the usage and adoption of this technology, and it will fall through the cracks. You will never move from a POC or an MVP stage to a production stage. So that's where internal or partner provided COEs and AI teams are important. Usually the flow for that is infra, data scientist, governance people, right? This usually four or five people usually does the trick for you, right? And one or two project managers slash coordinators who are able to track the progress and coordinate with the business users. And the last thing, which I think Arvind also alluded to, is what is the ROI and what is the success criteria? Fine, I'm going to adopt it, but what am I going to get out of it? Because I might spend $500,000 on this for implementation, but I might not spend additional cent if I'm not able to justify to my board and to my executive members how this is impacting efficiency of my team. So that is where two types of criteria are critical. One is the technical success criteria. That is where you're talking about NRMSE score, which is basically how accurate your models are. You're talking about confidence matrix. You're talking about exploratory data analytics. You're talking about data pre-processing and how much you're going to deliver. But what kind of supersedes that is your business success criteria. I Customer service was a great example. I think that Obed gave. I want to have my CPC go down by 20%. I want my CSAT to improve by 25%. Those are the success criteria. If you don't have those defined, the chances of it not making or seeing the light of the day are very, very strong. And that's where a lot of enterprises and enterprise sellers are faltering because they're not able to cover this. The last thing I would say, which underpins the entire four blocks, go business challenge specific. Don't talk tech. Talk business challenges. First, talk, address, identify business challenges. Step two, see what use cases can be used to mitigate those business challenges. Substantiate those use cases with a few case studies so that the customer becomes comfortable. And then the last step is what tech can you use to deliver it? Do you want to go deep learning? Do you want to do classic ML? Do you want to do generative AI? Do you need just pure play predictive analytics for that matter with a visualization tool on top? So that is the flow I personally take. What business challenges? Okay, for those business challenges, what solutions, right? What use cases can help you build those business challenges? I have an inefficiency in my manufacturing plant. Can I do supply chain optimization? Or I do predictive maintenance or environmental health and safety suite. Based on that use case, what are the benefits I'm going to drive, and then what are the technology that I'm going to use? Customers are least interested in the technology stack. They don't care. They want to be abstracted from it. They want you to talk the business lingo. We usually don't do that. So again, a similar example I wanted to give, one of the case studies we did, where we did a transformer load forecast, as well as we did a tad bit of, so these are classic ML models, right, which we have kind of built alongside Microsoft, where we did transformer load forecasting. So based on historical data of 4 to 5 years, we were able to predict how the transformer might react based on historical data and exogenous variables which were being brought in real time, right? You were able to predict 2 weeks ahead how the transformer would behave. We were able also to do the network health analysis of the smart meters that were out there, and these are like hundreds and thousands of smart meters. The challenge here was again very similar to the prerequisites. Their data was not good. So that is where we had to employ exclusive data imputation strategies so that we can get that data state ready and available to build models on top of it. The business user buy-in was something that was made a mandate. So there was the committee that was there from their side had technical representation and business representation, and that is how we knew how these 2 weeks of accurate prediction will help them in mitigating downtimes and penalties, right? Which even out of 100,000, if we get across 10%, it supersedes and makes this implementation break even within 2 months, right? And then drop time help them reduce droppages that cause them revenue loss, that cause them reactive maintenance cost, which is very expensive compared to proactive maintenance, and so on and so forth. So this is what we were able to do. We built a COE, we came in and we helped them hire and train their own team so that once we deploy it, it does not become a one-trick pony. It continues to be delivering internally. And ROI and success criteria is what I told you about through the business user buy-in. So just one of the examples. I'll take a quick pause before I go into, and I know we just have 5 more minutes, but any questions on this? Okay, perfect. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about is we have discussed the prerequisites of AI, right? How we are going to go about building it. But if we were to understand and manage the risks of an AI project, right? So on that note, these are few of the risks that I personally feel, as we discussed, data silos. A subset of that data silos is IT-OT convergence. Sometimes what happens is we don't really understand data silos. We look at data silos as either IT data silos or as OT data silos, right? OT is operational technology, IT is information technology, right? So IT might be something like your CRM or your ERP or your SaaS solution that might be storing data in a particular bucket, but that data might not be interacting with your warehouse management system or your HRMS system, so on and so forth. OT is more sensory based data, right? So if you're talking about things like inverters for a solar plant, if you're talking about things like a sensor that is based on an assembly line in a manufacturing facility, those are OT sites. Integration, culmination, and creating that integrated data platform is really important. Number two is riding the AI hype frame, and that is where Arvind also alluded to. This is a risk of being in a FOMO state, a fear of missing out. Hey, my peers as CIOs or CEOs are doing generative AI, let me do it. But I'm not answering the why, the what, the, and the how, right? The third is, or the fourth is the siloed development. Again, very, very similar to what I was talking about. Are we talking to the tech folks? Are we talking to the business folks? Are we talking to, at times, the ERP folks and bringing all of them on the same page to give us the sign offs and not doing a siloed development with one team where the user is somebody else, and by the time we develop and hold and give it to them, they're not ready to adopt, right? Fifth is choosing the wrong tech. It's pretty self-explanatory. I am trying to solve for an analytics problem through a deep learning AI model where my data state is not ready, right? I am trying to solve a ML problem by creating something that might be on a visualization level, right? Being able to choose the right tech, or I'm trying to do something that could be done by computer vision in a better way by generative AI, right? So choosing the wrong tech, and that's like the step five. Step six, and the most critical one, I would say, is the change management piece. Everybody is scared of AI when it comes to business user personas. I wouldn't say scared, but they're apprehensive, if you will. So creating a detailed and a full-fledged change management plan, that becomes really, really critical. You will not believe how many organizations want us to first talk about how do you do change management? How do you ensure adoption? How do you monitor usage? How do you trace even the prompts that are being run on a generative AI knowledge bot to ensure that there's no malicious activity? So this change management piece is very, very critical. It gives the enterprises the comfort that this partner or this seller is not only pitching me technology, but it's pitching me a new way of working, and he or she is going to be every step of the way with me to ensure that it gets done. Right. A subset to change management is, again, obviously not tracing adoption and usage. There are enough tools to make that happen. One thing I would like to call out for my sellers on this call is not tracing adoption and usage has a segue. And it was told to me by one of the analytics managers at a customer site that I was working with. What she told me was, Anshuman, all of this is great. I'm gonna deploy. I am gonna deploy, and it's already in process. But what I also want as part of this knowledge advisor, if you will, is I want to see which business units are actually using it. What kind of prompts are they running? What are their session times? And I was like, sure, I can do that. But what are you trying to gain out of it? And she was like, I have a mandate of running AI motion within this organization. Why will I go and pitch to a BU additional AI projects if they're not even using this one? That just shows that they are not at that stage and at that maturity to be, I wouldn't say guinea pigs, but to be early adopters of new projects. So I would focus on BU that's really using current AI solutions that we're deploying and speak to them for additional ones, right? So and it was an eye opener for me. I never thought like that. And then I was like, absolutely, it should be a mandate that once you deploy as an org or as a seller, you want adoption and usability tracking to be there, so that the CDO and the CEO and the business users are able to track who are really leveraging technology and then take relevant action. And the last one is the cost benefit analysis. So now, if you see below, there's a diagram, and I love this diagram because this will give you insights into the verbatim or the language you can use with the customers, right? How do you make AI impact measurable? And I love the bracket of somehow. And corporate objective needs to be supported, right? So efficiency, customer impact, financial ROI, and others, right? Generative AI usually falls in that 4%, to be honest. But if you see, how can I improve organizational efficiency? How can I improve decision making? right? How can I increase customer engagement, increase number of users, financial returns, right? Through cost saving or revenue enhancement, either top line or bottom line. And then there are others. This should be a nice cheat sheet, if you will, for your next conversation with the CTO, with the CIO, or with the CEO, where you can talk to them that, hey, I'm not here to just sell, I'm here to make your life better, right? And then, Nidhi, just a quick time check. How much time do I have now?
So, we're almost done. I mean, you can take 5 more minutes maybe, but
Perfect, perfect.
yeah.
Perfect. So I think I'm already on a few of my last slides. So this is a framework, guys, that I've developed, and I'm going to share these slides with Nidhi, and she can have these to you shortly. I'm not going to drain the slide, but this again talks about the flow that you can take as a template for any future engagement you might have, right? And you can work on this cheat sheet or this template with the customer you're working with. If you see, technology selection does not happen till step 5 or till the second last step. An implementation roadmap happens at the end. Usually, when we're doing the technology selection at the first, and that's where a lot of this AI adoption falters, right? So, what do you want to do is you first want to do business alignment, do an assessment whether you're even ready from a data state, from a data foundation perspective, identifying the use cases, right? Then the technology part, and then the implementation roadmap, right? I'll not drain it. Feel let's we can connect on Teams as well and talk about these later, but on LinkedIn as well and talk about this. But if I was to give you one template or one framework that you can use for AI adoption in your customers, do business alignment, do readiness assessment, data foundation, use case, technology, and implementation. Now, one of the interesting nuances I wanted to leave you, right, and this is more of a curveball, is the industry trend. We talk about data, we talk about AI, but there is a massive wave of change that's happening, guys, in the space of technology, right? And that is where it's important to choose the right partner for your AI journey, and that's where a lot of folks who might be selling services, as well as a lot of folks who might be selling products, can really leverage to build yourself as an SME. So this is just some additional snippet I wanted to share with you, right? Where there's a huge contention right now on, do you build or do you buy? Do you build means, can I do I host my data on Azure and use the services to build custom models and custom solutions that are unique to my data DNA? Or do I go out and buy a SaaS product, right? That does that, and I just use that as a plugin to solve my problems, right? So quite recently, there was a very interesting note by Satya on evolution. I just wanted you guys to see it, and then I'll double click on what I'm talking about and how the world is changing. I'll just quickly play this. I hope the SaaS you can hear our own dynamics thing. Right. The approach, at least we're taking, is I think the notion that business applications exist, that's probably where they'll all collapse, right, in the agent era. Because if you think about it, right, they are essentially CRUD databases with a bunch of business logic. The business logic is all going to these agents. And these agents are going to be multi-repo CRUD, right? So they're not going to discriminate between what the backend is. They're going to update multiple databases, and all the logic will be in the AI tier, so to speak. And once the AI tier becomes the place where all the logic is, then people will start replacing the backends, right? People, that's what, in fact, it's interesting. As we speak, I think we're seeing pretty high rates of wins on Dynamics backends and the agent use. And we are going to go pretty aggressively and try and collapse it all, right? Whether it's in customer service, in, by the way, the other fascinating thing that's increasing is just not CRM, but even our what we call finance and operations, because people want more AI native biz apps, right? That means the biz app, the logic tier can be orchestrated by AI and AI agents. So in other words, copilot to agent
business applications should be very seamless. Now, in the same vein, you could even say, hey, why do I need Excel? Like, interestingly enough, one of the most exciting things for me is Excel with Python is like GitHub with Copilot, right? That's essentially, so what we've done is when you have Excel, like this, by the way, will be fun for you guys, right? Which is you should just bring up Excel, bring up Copilot, and start playing with it, because it's no longer like, oh, it is like having a data analyst. And so it's no longer just making sense of the numbers that you have. It will do the plan for you, right? It will literally, like how GitHub Copilot Workspace creates the plan and then it executes the plan. This is like a data analyst who is using Excel as a sort of row column visualization to do analysis scratchpad. So it's kind of tools you. So the Copilot is using Excel as a tool with all of its action space because it can generate, and it has Python interpreter. That is, in fact, a great way to reconceptualize Excel. And at some point, you could say, hey, I'll generate all of Excel. And that is also true. After all, there's a code interpreter, right? So therefore, you can generate anything. And so, yes, I think there will be disruption. But so the way we are approaching at least our M365 stuff is, one is build Copilot as that organizing layer, UI for AI. Get all agents, including our own agents. You can say the Excel is an agent to my Copilot. Word is an agent.
Yeah, so just wanted to show it, and in a brief snippet, basically what Satya is talking about and what all of these hyperscalers are talking about is that there has been a democratization of AI logics being married to business logics, right? So what was being done in a silo by a SaaS tool now that is available at a PaaS level, at a platform as a service level, right? So a lot of these enterprises have the luxury and the freedom to maneuver and build mini SaaS applications within their environment that are still not siloed and are able to follow a framework-based approach. So the way the world is evolving now, you're not building exclusively, you're not buying exclusively, you're doing a hybrid, right? And that is where we have kind of, one of the examples, right, where we kind of co-developed is, what you see here is the underlying stack is, let's say, a Databricks, an AWS, a Microsoft, a Snowflake, or a Google, right? There is a framework-based approach that is now happening. What this framework-based approach does is, you don't have to worry about the technology piece anymore. You don't have to worry about what is the right stitch of services that will give me the maximum accuracy or the confidence score or the output. What you are as an organization focusing on is what kind of use case will solve my business challenge and what kind of solution that a partner like Scalable builds in tandem with Microsoft is going to be readily available. And talking the tech talk is now starting to get abstracted. You don't care what a forecasting framework has, right? Now, if it's working on a TFT algorithm, which is a free Google algorithm, or it's working on a proprietary DeepMC algorithm, which is a Microsoft-based algorithm, or it's working on an Aurora model, which is a weather forecasting model, the world is slowly moving away from worrying about that. So your job as a seller is getting more and more inclined to talking business challenges, is getting more inclined to talking use cases than to be talking on the technology. So I just wanted to share this brief snippet on one of the key changes that I'm seeing in the market as a seller, where the world and the technology space is evolving to become a hybrid, and PaaS platforms, right? Platform as a service is becoming adaptable enough to abstract and build certain frameworks and modules that can be used to accelerate your journey for building an AI roadmap, right? And accelerate your journey to a level where rather than writing 20,000 lines of code, you can easily do that by practically 10,000 lines of code or 5,000 lines of code, right? So yeah, just wanted to share that. And I think with that, Nidhi, I'm kind of done with what I wanted to present. Happy to take any questions or connect on LinkedIn, whichever way it works.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Thank you, Anshuman. It was a brilliant session. I personally found it super interesting, and I have one question to ask. So, before I take any other questions from the audience, so as a startup founder, how do you compete against established vendors when enterprises ask you for your track records or case studies? Do you have any strategies that have worked for you?
Sorry, can you say that again? I didn't catch that.
So, for a startup founder where everything is new and he has just built an AI solution for an enterprise, but say the enterprise is asking for case studies or track records for the success of that product. So, how do you answer to that?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So I think we can then again just decompose the question a little bit, right? So if you've built something, you must have built it on certain services, right? Let's say you built a route optimization tool, or you built a retail analytics tool, right? A retail analytics product that will still use certain services, a combination of services. So let's say I'm talking about ADF, and then holding that into ADLS, and then created a data lake on Databricks, and then using services on GPT-4V, and so on and so forth, right? If you're fresh off the bakery, right, or fresh off the assembly line, you can leverage or piggyback on these hyperscalers case studies, right? How GPT-4V has revolutionized the market, or you can bank on the manufacturing case studies. Another easy way to do it is do some prototyping, right? Take 3 to 5 customers and be okay to invest, right? From an MVP perspective. And you don't need to boil the ocean for that, right? You can take 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 images, run them through your model, showcase the benefit that is coming out, and then take the approval from that. So I use 2 approaches. We usually do a lot of MVPs and POCs, so that it becomes a bed of substantiation. And number two, at times, if there's a service that we're newly developing or launching, it's still built on something, right? And that something is a Microsoft or a Google or an AWS or some hyperscaler who are either way scoured the market, right? So you can piggyback on, hey, this is a similar work that this partner or this solution has done on this technology, and this is the kind of output you can get. I don't know if I was able to answer that correctly, but yeah.
I think I got the answer. The idea is to maybe bet on prices rather than say if someone else is doing the similar product as I am, I can use their case study and maybe compete with the prices at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if there's business value, prices don't matter, right? A CIO might not even take a $10,000 MVP if he's not clear what he's going to get out of it. Whereas they can invest. Like we started some work with one of the biggest customers in Canada, again in utility. The first project we did was around 40-50K. The most recent project, and we then, based on the quality, we kept on working with them. The most recent project I've closed, which is more of an MVP, is $500,000, right? So again, business, what you're driving, value, impact. Talk on that. Don't worry about price or tech,
Hmm.
because that's what is usually associated with you as a seller. You want to get away from that image of selling, right? You want to
Right.
become a technologist and an SME, as this is a you're not selling credit cards, to be honest, right? If you are selling
True.
credit cards, it's very commoditized. You have to create a niche of the solution you're selling, right? And that's how it's kind of
Hmm.
by steering away by steering away from conventional or run-of-the-mill KPIs that usually sellers talk about.
Got it. So we have Rishabh who is asking, uh, clients with data still on legacy systems like mainframe or decade-old apps, implementation cost surge for them as data migration gets added. Plus, there's a lot of change management involved. How to pitch and align them for benefits of AI? They're happy to get job done manually with cheap labor we have here in India.
I think that is where you can definitely, Rishabh, use the FOMO card, right? It's all about the value. It's all about the impact, right? If you're on mainframe or decade-old apps implementation, is this even a customer you want to spend your time on then, right? It's okay to say no. You're getting my point, right? We are a what? we're a 3.5 trillion economy now, 4 trillion economy, right? There are clients who will be early adopters, there will be clients who are laggards, and then there are clients who will be somewhere in the middle. It's okay to say no to a customer if it does not make sense. And I would love to have a dialogue with Rishabh on that. But what compels you to go to a customer who already is giving you signs of not being somebody who wants that tech?
Rishabh, if you want, you can unmute yourself and continue this question. Yes.
Hi, Anshuman. Thanks for that response. So, what drives me to try and bring those solutions is my own benefit. I, as a service provider, would be able to bring down overall productivity in terms of my own capex of the headcount that I've aligned to that client, and hence I'm trying to show them that there's a great benefit that even if I have this project with me after 5 years or so, they would still be able to take the leverage of all the AI benefits and everything that I'm streamlined for them. They still do not feel the need of doing it, saying, oh, capex is so much that you're pitching me, and I tell them, no, that is for this year or maybe 3 years timeline you're seeing. But look at the overall future aspects of how it could benefit just not me, both of us. Me, obviously, I'll save cost on my end with whatever project I have aligned with them in terms of cost benefits. Later on, they would also be in a position where if they plan not to be with me but somebody else in the IT services, you just have to tell them that I already have these systems implemented. Where can you bring in more transformation? How can you solve or do it for me? But they're still, you know, I get your point. FOMO is
Still in
something
limbo.
which I'll definitely try to play on now onwards. But I think I'm not able to crack this, and I thought that maybe I'll put this in this forum. Maybe you can guide me
Yeah.
somewhere.
No, no, absolutely, and I would love to take this offline with you. Let's connect on LinkedIn, and I would love to help you here. But I think it's a two-pronged problem, right? One is the technology aspect of it, which is, I would say, easier to solve. Another is the basic sales 101, right? And then we can get into the intricacies of what kind of persona are you talking to? Is he the influencer or the decision maker? Have we done the mapping of the org? What is the business value impact document that you have created, right? So it's more of I believe it's more of a sales problem, right? Where the customer is not seeing the value of this, right? Rather than it being a tech problem, right? If they're still running mainframes, if they're still running, and how big is the customer, if you don't mind me asking? Like, is it an enterprise level customer? Are they a $1 billion enterprise? Are they
It is
500?
that they are
A
easily eight
multi-billion
nine
dollar enterprise, right?
billion euro company.
Interesting. And they're still on-prem. They're still not using cloud.
They are now planning to. I mean, that's one good thing that has happened recently after we started pitching them hard, saying you cannot continue like this in the evolving world now. So they were now working with some. We were okay with that. They're now starting to migrate a lot of their data to cloud with Azure.
Yeah.
But whenever it comes to areas like, oh yeah, great, if you can do it for chief, I'm in. But what you're trying to say will wherever capex goes a little higher, because migration is the biggest problem I'm facing.
So are you a service provider, or are you working with a hyperscaler like a Microsoft?
I'm in the middle of both, so I'm a service provider, yes. Plus I have vendors aligned with me who services, then I pitch further.
Got it. So, a couple of things you can do, Rishabh, and just in interest of time, we'll also take this offline. How I would approach it is, again, like I said, I'm just going to revisit the sales strategy here, map the basic IDA framework, right? Attention, interest, desire, action. Like, are we talking to the right guys? Are we creating the right business value document and all of that? Number two is, can I show some investment and some proof of the pudding? So all these hyperscalers now have a lot of these partner-based programs, enterprise customer investment funds, funding innovation solutions and all of that, where they're rewarding a partner for doing a POC for a customer. And all customer needs to do is commit to a consumption of cloud, right? So if I'm able to consume $200,000 of Azure, I get $40,000 of implementation service that I can only use through a partner of Azure, as an example, right? So that is one of the ways I would maneuver this to say that, hey, I know you don't see the value. right? For certain modernization, certain innovation use cases, let me invest. Let me show you the value and start small, right? And then that can be catapulted into something big.
Thank you, Anshuman. I think this is a really useful one because I was having a discussion with one of my AVPs as well, and I think he aligned me to the saying that maybe we need to pitch to somebody different and realign our strategies. I think this is something which I've taken a note of and definitely implement. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rishabh. Perfect. So if there are no further questions,
Yeah, hi Ashman. This is Arvind again. Yeah, could you just give like a simple example from end to end, saying how the life cycle of the sales actually kind of works, given the slides that you presented and practical example of one specific customer that you dealt with and how they were able to see the value and implement the solution when they were actually reluctant to agreeing to a solution initially, from
yeah,
your experience.
that's a webinar in itself, if you know what I mean. But just to try to answer your question, and then obviously we'll connect after this as well.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
First is to capture the interest, right, or capture the attention of the customer. One of the ways we kind of do that is by direct go to market, where we are reaching out to enterprise customers and talking about similar work we're doing with their peers, right? That's one of the quick foot in the door. Understanding their business requirement, technical requirements, creating that project charter, the single source of justification, so on and so forth. Just being able to articulate what are they looking for, what are the challenges. That's where a lot of pre-sales work happens. Once you've done that, that is when we get into the contracting, the negotiation stage, where we're talking about, okay, what can we invest, what is the kind of bill of material they would see, what is the success criteria, so on and so forth. Getting the SOW signed off, and then it's more about the project management piece, right? So that is where you're delivering the solution, tracking the KPIs, so on and so forth. And then eventually it's about repeating the loop with farming of that account, right? So one of the key KPIs I personally carry is I don't want to be a one-trick pony in enterprise customer. So my mandate is to at least get 3 projects, right? And the remainder of 2 projects depend on the first project, right? And thankfully we've had that 100% stickiness. So I would say engage, consult. I would say then there is contract and negotiate, deliver, and then manage. These would be the 5, 6 pronged framework based approach that I would follow.
Thanks, Ashman. That answers my
Examples
question.
would be where we're just doing something with one of the customers. We gave them a product demo and showed them the case studies. They liked what they saw. We did a small MVP for them. We don't do POCs. The difference between POC and MVP is MVPs are production scalable. POCs are usually siloed. So we go in, we do an MVP, stickiness of the customer becomes higher. They see the MVP. We have to ensure that they are getting the business and the technical criteria that we committed them to, then get the approvals, take that to production, and help them run it and monitor the usage. So that's one of the examples I would give.
I see. Yeah. So MVP doesn't. How do they measure? Because in POC they will be able to see the proof of concept, and it's something that maybe they'll be able to make a decision whether that works or not, right? But with MVP, is that production? You mentioned that it will eventually go to the production scale. So how do they actually make a decision whether MVP is the right framework, or why don't they go with POC in this case?
Success criteria. That's where the pre-sales articulation is very, very critical, right? That's where identifying business challenges, what is the use case that can define that, what will you build on top of the services stack to actually deliver it. And then the last thing is, okay, what are the KPIs that you're going to track, right? Cost reduction, improvement, enhancement, so on and so forth, right? The reason I say MVP is because MVP would be in their environment, POC would be in my environment. When I'm already getting access to their environment, it's easier to stick around and build it to production if we are able to deliver. With POC, you are maybe hosting in your environment, and then you're adding additional stages of getting the access, pushing this all data dump on top of their environment, and then scaling it up to production. So you're adding 3, 4 more stages. Secondly, how we use MVP is because it's in their environment, because they're going to consume a tad bit of the cloud. You are then making them eligible for investment funds. You're making them eligible for additional programs that are running out there to improve their TCO, right? The total cost of ownership. So yeah, these are some of the things that I kind of leverage and why I go MVP route.
Yeah,
Okay,
got it.
Anshuman. Yeah, thank you, Arvind. I will have to cut you short if you're asking something else. So, Anshuman, one last question that we are going to take is by Krishna. She is asking for tips for someone who is just starting data science or as a business analyst.
Okay. I think the beauty right now, Krishna, is there's just information overload. Uh, can you talk to me a bit? Can you talk to me a bit more about what kind of roles you're looking for? What is your plan, and what is the roadmap that you anticipate?
Krishna, you can unmute yourself and ask the questions further if you have any, or
That's 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 okay. I know we're running short of time. So Krishna, I would say first find a good mentor in the domain that you're targeting for. LinkedIn is the best resource for that. Do for courses on the domain that you have identified after speaking to your mentor and doing your own research. Uh, Plethora of free courses by Google, by Coursera, by Harvard, by Stanford, by any top university you would want to call off. Do courses. You don't need certifications. There's a difference, right? They give you the course for free. For certification they charge you money. It's fine, right? Read up on this, but the prerequisite to everything that you do is to have a clear goal post in mind. One of the challenges that I see is the people who are starting off, they're not speaking to enough stakeholders in their own domain who have been there, done that, to find out what has worked, what has not worked, and what kind of career trajectory that they see. If you're able to identify that, you have practically done 90% of the work. You have enough people to guide you, then you have enough in companies to hire you, you have enough content online to train you, right? So find a mentor and finalize on what is the trajectory and the kind of work you want to do, and then just substantiate that and build your knowledge base by doing these courses. and and
thank you,
and
Anshuman.
and one last thing, Krishna, if you're really just starting off, do internships, right? Work for people that you aspire for. It's okay if you want, if they're not ready to pay you. This experience will go a much longer way than the stipend or whatever, right? You'll make enough money if you get the right insight and you create a niche for yourself in the market. So that's another thing I would say.
Awesome. Thank you, Anshuman.